Hello, this is LaTrina Jones. I am making this video because I am really frustrated. I haven't been doing too well lately, and this is the last week of the two classes that I started. I'm a little frustrated. I don't know that I'm going to be able to complete getting my degree. I want to, but it's been very frustrating for me. I know we're supposed to write this epic essay um, to summarize all of the things that we've been learning. And I tried writing it, and I've tried the software for dictations and things like that. It's just been really frustrating, and I haven't had enough time or patience and whereabouts to turn in the final essay. Um, I don't know if this will be accepted or not. I know that this is one way that I can convey the information that we are supposed to write about. Our last assignment basically is preparing an essay, um, going over the points of warning signs and interventions, and explaining each point in detail. Um, Going through this course, of course, there is a lot of information to implement and to contain and what's the word retain, um, but also to be able to produce or display that we have understood and gotten the information. One of the first citations or notes that we're supposed to talk about, it says the warning signs. And I was a little bit confused about what particular warning signs they were talking about. But then as I went back and read over um, precisely, sorry, my notes, precisely what we were supposed to discuss. Um, Meeting the needs of all learners, and learning about different approaches to education with children with special needs, and the research and the analyzation of all the special education services in early childhood. So the determining warning signs that they are discussing is um, first the knowing or being prepared or being able to notice um, developmental delays, different children with disabilities or special needs not meeting benchmarkers far as development is concerned, and learning disabilities as well. So a lot of warning signs come when you're doing your assessments, and you have to um, get an overall view of those warning signs. So you, as an early interventionist, would not be um, expected to get all of the warning signs or have all of the answers. What you would do is do your observation, do your um, time with the family, do your assessments, and use your um, practice that you've learned, um, and the knowledge that you've learned to do an assessment, and then you would meet with other professionals, and then you guys would gather that information as a team and see what this child and the family needs. So some of the warning signs, going back to that, would be, as I stated before, developmental delays, not biting nails or fidgeting, not meeting those benchmarks at the appropriate stage of development. Um, Also, warning signs is, also with us, we have to put aside our opinions and just based on what's there, what's going on with that particular child and family to um, to get all the information that we need and to gather the resources that the family will need and to be able to develop a care plan for uh, whatever particular child you're working with or family. So, far as warning signs, you have developmental warning signs, you have the motor skills, cognitive and growth motor skills, you have the actual developmental um, um, delays, um, such as, like I said, some of those warning signs would be biting nails, not being able to concentrate, um, not being able to pick up objects at a certain stage in development, not being able to talk right away, um, not being able to stand or crawl at certain developmental stages. So these are all different warning signs that you can prepare yourself to look for when you're dealing with children with special needs and developments. Okay. The next citation or the next point we're going to be discussing is what special education interventions are appropriate. So when you're dealing with um, an early intervention, and this is crucial for all children in development in any type of disability, any type of special education, um, early intervention is crucial. Um, all of the statistics and the studies have shown that early intervention is the best way to afford children to um, do their best and help them to include into the inclusive stage when they're ready, um, and prepare not only them but the family and the siblings and everybody involved. And it takes a team collaboration and a team effort to do that. Now, what special education interventions are appropriate would depend on your assessment. It would depend on the warning signs. It would depend on what that particular child and family needs, whether that child is autistic, whether that child is developmentally delayed, whether that child is ADD or ADHD, or whether that child is, has, you know, just, whatever disability or special need that child has, um, the assessments, the para professionals, your colleagues, your co-workers everybody's going to do their part, whether it's speech therapy, whether it's uh, cognitive learning therapy, whether it's hearing loss, whether it's blindness. All of these things have to be taken into consideration when trying to get things together and get the services that are needed for the family. So, special education intervention is appropriate when you have any type of disability in the home through a child, whether it be a small or a major one. It can be very little intervention needed. It can be a whole host of, like I said, a collaborative team. But again, you learn this when you're doing the collaborations, when you're doing the assessments, when you're talking to the teacher, the parent, the student, the speech therapist, the um, counselor. All of these people or individuals or professionals play a role in what early intervention resources you're going to need and going to use. There are several different resources out there. There's a lot that we have been given in this just this part of our education alone. So, but what makes it appropriate, or how you know that it's appropriate, is going to have a is having an impact on the whole group. It's not just the early interventionist. It's everybody involved with that child and the family. Some children with certain disabilities may need, like I said, little intervention, maybe an assessment at the home. Um, will all need assessments. Any child that's missed, that's why it's so important to notice the warning signs, but also um, we've talked about having a partnership with the parents, because oftentimes parents don't know how to deal with their children or their child having a disability, and so that's why it's so crucial that we um, are able to make ourselves aware of those early warning signs, so that we can establish um, really great relationships with the parents, with the teachers, with the specialist that's going to be involved with this particular child, whatever with whatever particular need um, that they special need that they have. So I hope that I'm articulating well, or you understand the points that I'm trying to come across. That's why it was so difficult for me to write this paper. Um, Also, with my um, delays and with my gap that I have in processing information, it has been really difficult for me to try to process and really decipher the information that I've been reading over and over, and to um, to make it known that I have been working very hard to um, understand the information and not plagiarize, which is just repeating exactly what's going on in the books, in the text, or the research that I read, or the films that I've reviewed, and I've done all of that. Special education intervention is really important in establishing a certain quality of life and care for any individual with special needs. So, knowing what's appropriate for, um, say, an autistic child versus a child with blindness, or a child with hearing loss, or a child that's ADHD, or a child that's ADD. There are different avenues that you would go, and different intervention um, specialists that are needed. Um, our next point that we are to discuss is what services work best for specific disabilities. Now, you have so many different disabilities, that are recognized. Um, In dealing with um, all of this, the well, I guess the main point is when you're dealing with the last chapter of the text, is helping us to understand the important components of effective collaborations and discussions with colleagues, with um, other professionals, because there's always have to be a step by step plan or care plan or process that we all need to go through in order to get the help and the resources to the child with the disability or in the family. Um, a lot of times, when you are working together to problem solve, working together on collaboration, working together to share a decision, um, you have to take your personal views or your personal opinions out of that, and you have to completely just observe what's there, what's actually there, not an opinion, not an adjustment, but what's actually there. And that's why it's so important when you go into the sharing, decision making, the collaborations, the problem solving with a group of professionals. You each need to hear each other out. Communication, listening is very important. They're high on the skills that you need to decipher or to do any of this. So, what services work best for specific disabilities? It depends on the disability. So then you would have to go into which services are needed for that particular child. There are so many out there, and it tells us it was so much information that it was hard for me to process all of the different levels and all of the different services that are there. Um, One of the services is the supervised one-on-one assistance in an inclusion setting. This is a very detailed, very hands-on, not too overwhelming, because maybe that child doesn't need speech therapists. Maybe that child doesn't need physical therapy. Maybe that child only needs just the early interventionist assessment, and then a counselor to help the parents to help that child. So if we help them to understand how this child works, what particular attentions this child needs, how to allow the child to kind of push out on their own and go beyond um, their comfort zones with whatever disability that they have, may just take a one-on-one, like I said, interventionist. Um, Whereas you may have a child with autism, but also has a learning disability like dyslexia or a developmental delay, and they need multiple services. So, you may have a child that needs speech therapy, that needs physical therapy, that needs the extra counselor to, or the coach, the educational coach, a little bit more time. Time is so crucial in all of these processes. I think we often forget about that. If you give a person with a disability or special need extra time, that can be the deciding factor on whether that child has a negative or a positive reaction to what is trying to be developed with that child to help. Um, I know that um, being in the appropriate role uh, is also what services is best, that works best for whatever disability, because like I said, each child that has a disability will need individual separate things. They're not on all. You can't just have a meeting and decide, oh, it's an autistic child, so across the board this is what they're going to need. It doesn't work that way, because disabilities are different in every child. And so I think this is another lesson, or another crucial part of the information that we are learning in designing and defining the jobs, and um, what's expected of the professionals, um, and what's expected of the teams when going into homes and dealing with children with special needs and disabilities. Discovering special talents and special skills. Some kids, say you have a child that needs a wheelchair. Just because that child needs a wheelchair doesn't mean that he's developmentally delayed or she's developmentally delayed. Just means that they may need help more physically with things. Now, because they're physically disabled in some form, they may need extra time, like I said, or physical therapy, but specific physical therapies to strengthen the lower body extremities or the upper body extremities, depending on what that physical disability is. Giving or allowing for sufficient planning for different or specific disabilities also is huge in providing what a child and a family needs. So, in all of this information that we're accruing, it's really important that we do understand that it's going to take a team collaboration um, with the knowledge, with the different knowledges, because everybody does not, it's not all consuming. You're not expected to know everything. You're actually expected to embrace the information that an early interventionist is supposed to know, as far as assessing, using your assessment tools, as far as the warning signs, as far as knowing how to incorporate um, group discussions about what is best for whatever child and family you're working for. I really hope that I have explained each point clearly. Um, I hope that you can see that I have retained some information. Like, again, I said, I don't know that this is going to be accepted, but this is what I could do in my frustrations of trying to get this paper done and across. Um, I am still planning to turn in what I can get on paper, but the paper that I wrote kept coming back through turn in too high, and um, I got really frustrated with my inept way of trying to um, put words on the paper. It's very difficult for me. I appreciate everything that you've done throughout this course to accommodate me. I'm very sad, though, that I may not be able to continue, because I don't know that I'm going to be able to keep up with the curriculum. I am trying my best, but it's very difficult. Um, Again, I have been sick the last couple of days, but I pushed myself to do this entry. So I will email you. Hopefully this will be accepted. I will, if you have any advice for me on how to go about um, getting information across without the frustration of I know I'm supposed to write papers out. It's just very, very difficult for me. Um, because I process so slowly all of the information. Like I said, I am planning on turning in a paper, but however, I don't feel that the paper will be as explanatory as the video is. So thank you for your time and your patience. I hope that you are well. And again, thank you for everything that you've done throughout this course. Thank you.